Hello there. What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. You probably have seen this going all around the news with headlines linking the two. We're going to talk about this today. And I also want to remind you guys there is still time left to enter to win the giveaway for a $25 Amazon gift card. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Variety, as well as a couple of other news sources, have been posting that they have confirmed that Rosario Dawson is going to be in The Mandalorian Season 2, appearing as Ahsoka Tano in live action. This has sparked a flurry of concerns and comments and fan freaking out and doubt. And, you know, a lot of just the whole gamut of emotions. Everybody is going through all of the motions here. And I will admit, at first, I did not believe this. But I will say that there is a chance. So what do we know? First off, this is not confirmed by Disney. So it's not 100% confirmed. I am sure if it's true, that means we will see it confirmed on StarWars.com or on the Star Wars show or, you know, through official sources fairly soon. However, I just feel like it's probably a little too early for them to officially confirm anything like that, but I would expect it to be coming fairly soon if this has leaked to that many sources of the press. I would imagine it's probably all but confirmed at this point. But still, there have been things that were confirmed that ended up either not happening or happening way, way, way later. So it wouldn't be the first time something gets confirmed and ends up not showing up. For all we know, it could be a scene that ends up getting cut from Season 2, so it never even shows up in Season 2. So, like, you know, it's one of those things that you just really have to wait until it's finally confirmed before it's taken as the gospel. Now, here's what I will say. If it's true, it has the potential to be amazing. Rosario Dawson has already said that she wanted to be Ahsoka, that she wanted to be involved in Star Wars, so she's already a fan, and Rosario Dawson is freaking awesome. She is amazing. She's very, very, very talented, and she's gorgeous too. So she's got that going for her. But I think one of the biggest things, the things that people immediately push back on, is her voice is not Ahsoka's voice. Ahsoka's voice is Ashley Eckstein, and you know, a lot of people said, no, Ashley has to play Ahsoka. You can't have anybody other than Ashley Eckstein play Ahsoka, and that's a valid argument, and I feel like Rosario Dawson probably physically resembles Ahsoka more, whereas she might not sound like her. So how would they resolve this? Well, there's a couple of different ways that it could end up happening if this does happen. But again, I'm caveating all this with until it's officially confirmed, you know, through Star Wars, through Lucasfilm, then it's still, it's a good idea to just take it as rumor, even though it seems pretty reliable with how many people are reporting on it and how many sources that they have that are reliable sources that have confirmed it. I'm just saying that we've seen stuff not come to fruition before. So here's what we do know. We do know that Season 2 has wrapped shooting of The Mandalorian. So it would seem feasible at this point, since they're done shooting The Mandalorian, that people who have filmed scenes, you know, have, that news of that has certainly leaked. So it is entirely possible that, you know, several camera crew that are now gone home to their families have, you know, been talking on the phone or have been overheard talking about it or whatever. That could be. It could be something that they're getting ready to make a, you know, press release about, more stuff to potentially hype up The Mandalorian. Although I don't really feel like you need to hype up The Mandalorian because it's already like the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I don't really feel like they needed to put Ahsoka in The Mandalorian to sell it. But there are a couple of ways that it could actually work and would make sense. But I guess my biggest thing is, how would you really do it? Right? And I think it basically boils down to one of two ways. You're either going to have the Ray Park and Sam Witwer treatment, where you have Rosario Dawson act as Ahsoka with the makeup and the full battle rattle, and then you just have Ashley Eckstein do the voice and so dub over Rosario Dawson. Now, this has a lot of people unsure whether or not they're really going to do that because, you know, that's it can be kind of cringy, and it can be difficult to dub over somebody, especially for any significant amount of time. I think it worked really well in Solo because you were looking at Darth Maul as a hologram, so you were able to get away with a lot more fudging of the actual motion of the lips and, that synchronization. So it was a lot easier to pull something like that off in a hologram form, which begs the question, will we only see Ahsoka in hologram form? Because it seems to work, at least when you do it in that regard. Or maybe some other limited visibility form, like maybe some kind of force vision or something like that, or through a smoke or something where you can barely see. It maybe is some kind of disguised thing. I will say that if she is in season 2, I would expect, and they do something like that, I would expect it to be a very short scene, probably only a single episode, and probably only a very, very short scene with, I would say, fewer than 30 seconds of dialogue, just because it can be so difficult to dub for somebody without it becoming off as cringy or cringeworthy. And, you would probably want it to be very, very, might even be just a single line, like, I am no Jedi, or something like that. Of course, my voice is absolutely not appropriate for Ahsoka, so I'm not even going to try and do Ahsoka right now. But, I think dubbing would be difficult. Now, if you wanted to have more and a significant amount of dialogue with this character, I think you need to have Rosario Dawson just step in and do it. Now, she's got a much deeper voice than Ashley does, so it would almost be an evolution of the character. You may be able to pull it off because Ahsoka will be significantly older at the time of this show. Now, don't forget, the last time we saw Ahsoka was at the end of Star Wars Rebels, which was like a kind of like an epilogue, which took place 8 years after the principal, the last time we actually saw Ahsoka speak. So you're looking at like 10 years later. So she could be a little bit more, I want to say matronly. She could be a little bit more matured. Her voice could have changed a little bit over time because Ashley is still the one who voices Ahsoka as a child and a teenager. So you might be able to get away with her having a slightly different voice considering she's making the jump to live action. But I think a lot of fans would be really disappointed. It really depends on how well Rosario can do the voice, and would fans kind of view that as a slight against Ashley. Now, Dave Filoni created Ahsoka. Dave Filoni is also directing an episode, or rather in season 2. So, Dave is at the helm here, and this is his baby, so I'm pretty sure he's going to make the right call. He's certainly earned a place of trust with me, as well as most of the fandom. Dave is kind of in one of those positions where he can do no wrong. As far as I'm concerned, Star Wars is in good hands with Dave, and he's done only good things so far. Although I will say the Loth Wolves kind of, walking through hyperspace was kind of weird. But that's okay. I mean, I'll give it to him. George Lucas did a lot of weird stuff, too. So, but yes, she might not even have any spoken words at all, which is another option. People don't even think about that. Just because she's in the series doesn't mean she has to speak. If Boba Fett was actually in season 1, he had no spoken words, right? There's all kinds of darkness to The Mandalorian. There's all kinds of badassery that require no spoken words at all. So you could totally get away with just having her, show up, do some super cool ninja stuff, and then like vanish just as quick as that. And you're like, oh, who was that? Oh, it would be totally appropriate, right? So how do you bring her in? Is there currently a path that we can expect to see her come into the show? I think the most obvious path to bring her in, well, there's two. I'll start with Baby Yoda. We know, and of course, spoilers for season 1 of The Mandalorian, because we're going to talk a little bit about, I'm sorry if I said Baby Yoda. If you don't know who the child is, affectionately called Baby Yoda, then you need to go watch The Mandalorian. Like, pause this video, go watch season 1 on Disney Plus of The Mandalorian right now, because it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'm actually going back on keto right now, so I don't even think that matters, because I'm really not eating bread anymore. So, as the greatest thing since bottled water, I don't know. All right, anyway, Mandalorian is awesome. Now I'm getting off topic. My point is, the child is currently on this mission, to be reunited with people of his type. So that's certainly one area they could introduce Ahsoka. Now, if I'm going to be really disappointed if you see her at the conclusion of Season 2 in the very, very final scene, and that was the apex of the whole Season 2, is like the big payoff is like, oh my gosh, we got to see Ahsoka, and they spoil that before the season even comes out. I'll be really annoyed if they do something like that. And as such, if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't ever confirm this, because it would be a huge spoiler. Imagine before The Mandalorian ever came out, if somebody said, oh, by the way, spoiler, there's a baby Yoda in it. You know, it was supposed to be a big, surprise. It was supposed to be a big mind screw to everybody who saw it and was like, oh my gosh, my brains just exploded all over the wall because it was that cool of a scene when you first see it. So it could be one of those deals that they're just not going to confirm it, and you'll just have to watch and see. And if that's the case, then so be it. I'm going to just watch it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to do my best to really enjoy this show because it's proven to be a fantastic show. So if it involves Baby Yoda, I think that's a clear cut, because, Force users, Jedi, that whole connection, it makes sense that she might be involved in his search for the Jedi. However, there's also the Darksaber to consider. We did see the Darksaber at the very, very end of Season 1 of The Mandalorian. So we know that Ahsoka knows other people in the cast of Star Wars Rebels that were involved with the Darksaber, hence Sabine. Which begs the question, would we see Sabine or any other characters from Star Wars Rebels if the Darksaber is what takes us to meet Ahsoka? Would there be some Darksaber versus, black versus white, as opposed to blue versus red? It would be kind of a different type of lightsaber duel that I would love to see. That would be, kind of a great way for Disney to show that we're still doing classic tropes, but we don't have to involve the same exact Star Wars that you knew from the original trilogy, where it was basically blue versus red, or eventually green versus red. Now we've got black versus white, and somebody who is not a Jedi versus somebody who is not a Sith, actually having a lightsaber duel. So that would be really, really cool, and I would love to see that. That's actually what I would probably prefer, is if it was some type of Darksaber arc, Ahsoka trying to return the Darksaber to her friend, who is now an older woman, Sabine. Or at least not super old, but maybe probably, 40? I think 40 is, late 30s, early 40s, something like that. Of course, I think according to Hollywood terms, that's probably considered old. But that would be awesome. I would love to see that. My only problem is if they spoil a whole bunch of Rebels stuff that could, in theory, spoil the direction that they want to take with what happens, with Sabine and Ahsoka's search for Ezra. Now, one thing that we don't have a concrete date on is the final conclusion of Star Wars Rebels, because we do, at the end of Star Wars Rebels, we do see Sabine and Ahsoka kind of fly off into the sunset on their search for Ezra. Only thing that we know as of that particular moment is that takes place after the Battle of Endor. So what they could actually do is they could time Ahsoka's appearance in this particular season of The Mandalorian to take place right before she leaves with Sabine. So this way you're not spoiling anything of those unwritten stories about what happens in the search for Ezra, and of course Grand Admiral Thrawn and all of that other stuff. And by the way, if Mandalorian wants to eventually reach out and touch Thrawn and we get all of that, that'll be really, I feel like it's going in a direction that it probably doesn't need to go, though. And that's the other criticism that I'm going to kind of conclude with in this video, is that some people are saying that they don't want The Mandalorian to have to rely on pre-existing characters. And while I absolutely understand that, I don't mind some well-placed cameos. But what I don't want is for some kind of guest star to steal all of the thunder for the season. The first season has shown that the characters in this show can stand on their own 2 feet. Cara Dune did great. The Mandalorian, Din Djarin, did great. Carl Weathers did good. Did real good. He was a little a little funny. But my point is the characters did great. Baby Yoda did great. And so these characters are strong enough to stand on their own 2 feet. So I don't need a guest star at this point to steal all of the thunder. If they want to bring back Boba Fett, that would be fine as long as it doesn't steal the thunder. And I think I think either season 2 or season 3 is a good enough time to eventually do that. I think it's a question that should be addressed at some point, and I think they've kind of hinted at that at season 1, so that's kind of cool. If they want to bring in Ahsoka, I think it's just going to be for one episode. There may be no dialogue. I think there may be, if there is dialogue, it'll be very short. I think they will dub Ashley Eckstein over Rosario Dawson, especially if it's only for like 1 or 2 lines, especially if they're kind of spoken kind of from the shadows. Like she shows up, does her stuff, walks away, and she looks back, and she's kind of shaded in like a silhouette, and she's just like, she says something totally badass as she walks away, like, don't follow me, I'm going down a path you can't follow, you know, and then runs away, or says something probably a little bit more iconic. Also, watch all of the Clone Wars final season, because by the time the Clone Wars ends, there may actually be tiny, tiny little Easter eggs that hint towards something that could bring Ahsoka back in The Mandalorian. Wouldn't be surprised if Dave Filoni planted those seeds, and then years from now we go back and say, oh, Picard's flute was in both episodes. You know, I mean, I'm pulling contrast from Star Trek here over at the same time. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. There's not really a whole lot more I can say. I'm just excited, and so I tend to ramble a little bit when I get excited. But I mean, really, I said it at the very beginning of the video. We don't know, and we're going to have to wait to see. But it very well may be possible. But I would love to hear what you guys think. Do you think that these rumors are true? And if so, how do you think they're going to do it? Do you think it'll be single episode, maybe a multi-episode arc? Or do you think it'll be for the whole season? Do you think they're going to go forward in time from where we last saw her in Star Wars Rebels? Or do you think it'll be maybe shortly right before that? Because that could kind of line up with the timeline of this show. We don't know exactly when Sabine and Ahsoka left to go find Ezra. It might have been a few years after the Battle of Endor, which would maybe make it line up with The Mandalorian. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of speculation, and we have a lot of time left until we get there, so it's going to be a really fun fourth quarter of this year when this totally comes out. And hopefully we're not all still confined to our homes, but if we are, this will make that confinement just a little bit sweeter, because we'll have something really, really cool to watch. All right, guys, that is all I've got for you today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Also, want to thank the patrons. You guys are amazing. If you want to support this channel, there are links down in the description below where you can find ways to do that, be it through merch or Patreon or following me on other social media. Be sure to subscribe, and as always, have a great day.